starts to narrow after the fifth line. Take a look. You'll see. You have your cup?
Yeah.
Look at your first page. What do you see? You see wide lines, wider lines, and it gets narrow.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems to be, well, you can say it's a printing issue, but almost every single page in the entire Talmud has 4 wide lines, and then it gets narrow. Why 4, not 3, not 5, only 4. Everything is about Shgacha Pratis. What you see around the block is about Shgacha Pratis, divine providence. So how much more so if you see a block Gemmara, a page of Gemmara that has exactly almost every single page 4 wide lines, it probably tells us something. So I once heard something quite interesting. I shared it with the class about a few months ago, maybe a year ago, or maybe both times, that when we learn Rashi, especially, you begin to understand what you're learning. Gemara without Rashi is hard to figure, but with Rashi, we begin to really understand what we're learning, and that can create a problem. We can begin to believe that perhaps the oral law is human logic. It's not divine. I understand it. It makes sense. So it can't be so holy. If I can understand it, it's not God's understanding, it's my understanding. And then you can question the entire Talmud of maybe it's just human logic and not Torah logic, divine logic. So as a hint, you put the first 4 lines wider. 4 lines corresponds to the 4 letters of Hashem's name, the Tetragrammaton, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Don't forget that even if you understand it, it's one of God's tricks, thanks to Rashi and those other commentaries, that can make Torah clear, but it's divine, it's part of God's wisdom. It's just as mysterious as He is in its core. I once heard that. I'm not sure if I mentioned it in this class or not. Okay. So what we learned was on the first English page is that Reish Lakish, when he began his lectures on the yeah. What's your name?
Carlos.
Where are you from?
Argentina.
Argentina. And your name?
My name?
Yeah, you. Where are you from?
Ukraine.
I met you before. You're from Leah, right? Leah, of course, Leah.
Do you know who I am?
I forgot.
Same. You're Reverend Majesty, right?
No, Mrs. Lemley.
What?
Mrs. Lemley.
Oh, nice.
What's your name?
Huh? In this day and age.
Talia?
Talia.
Where are you from? Israel?
No, Argentina.
Argentina too? Okay. Nosotros queremos Mashiach ahora. Okay, now we can start.
Rabbi Greenberg.
Whoa.
3 languages wasn't enough yet.
So it says here that we don't pair a woman to a man, a marriage that is, unless it's accordance with that person's needs. So it can't be a mismatch. A tzaddik for a tzaddikis, someone who's not a tzaddik, equal levels in terms of their religious observance, decency. That's how it works. You're not going to have a mismatch. And that's what he said. And he brought a proof for that from a pasuk in Tehillim, which we discussed last time we were learning. It feels like a year ago, but it was about 4 weeks ago. We had a lot of breaks. And on the second English page, we questioned that. How can we say that it depends on your level of religious observance? That's the kind of shidduch you're going to get. What's the kasha? What's the problem with that? We have a different source that says that God decrees the moment the male embryo is formed, the moment of conception, that is, takes 40 days for the completion of the embryonic stage. Of course, there's 9 months, but after 40 days, I mentioned last time we learned that within the 40 days, there are some extenuating circumstances where we are allowed to abort the baby if there's a very strong need for it, even if it's not life-saving. There are some loopholes for that, but once the baby has reached 40 days in its gestation in its mother's womb, it becomes much more difficult to find any kind of loophole other than saving the mother's life. Just by the way, I'm going to have to digress for a second. People talk about human shields in the war. If one is allowed to eliminate a baby inside its mother's womb, if the baby is threatening the mother's life, the baby is not the fault. The baby doesn't mean anything. The baby has no knowledge of what it's doing. But because the baby is interfering with the mother's life, you take the baby's life to save the mother's life. How much more so, these are Jewish babies, how much more so if we're talking about these human shields that are not exactly lovers of the Jewish people. I can guarantee you they probably hate, most of them hate, are really Sinai Israel, but they're being used, not their fault, they're being used as human shields by the monsters. If they are interfering with your safety, which they are, because if you have to worry about not hurting them, you'll get killed first. And this has happened. Then to save your life and to eliminate the enemy, you're allowed to kill the human shields. Al pi halakha. There's no shaila about that. No question. It doesn't look good in the eyes of the people, but you're saving lives of the Jewish soldiers. We didn't ask you to start this war. You started the war. We're fighting for our existence. Israel is fighting for its existence. We have no choice. This war is a must. And we have to finish the war. You don't start a surgery and end and in the middle of the surgery decide to quit. We did enough. No, you do that, and the patient probably will not last, will not be cured, and probably will succumb to the illness. So you have to finish the job. And if there's an interference, even if it's innocent people, so-called innocent people, sorry, we have no question. Nothing you can do about that. Okay, that was a side point. Totally off the subject. Now, so 40 days prior to that, in other words, the moment of conception, which is 40 days before the completion of the embryonic stage, right when the baby is conceived, there's a seminal drop. And God decrees that this male seminal drop, this baby boy, will have a shidduch. And the shidduch is decreed from on high. So how can you say, here's the question, how can you say Reish Lakish, that it depends on religious observance? Religious observance is not decreed by God. That you decide on your own. God does not interfere with our free choice. That being the case, being that it's decreed before the baby is born, who his shidduch is going to be, obviously it seems like that we're not talking about two people that are on the same level of observance, because the child can choose later to be someone that he shouldn't be. And likewise with her. So it seems quite clear, but it doesn't depend on the religious observance. It's decreed. This boy for this girl, and that's it. By the way, it's possible to lose your basharta. It's possible to lose the person who's destined for you. Number one. Number two, it doesn't mean you sit back and the shidduch will just fall into your hands. There has to be, what the Rebbe always points out, ishtadlut. Some people have to work harder. Yitzchak didn't have to work too hard. Yaakov had to work hard. Mauritian didn't have to work too hard. Because, by the way, why we say, I'm going off on a tangent here again, why do we say under the chuppah, during the brachas, we say that it should be like a wedding of Adam and Chava. Doesn't work out so well over there. They didn't have nachas from their children. One kid kills the other kid. Cain kills Hebel. That's the kind of marriage you want to have. So why do we pick Adam and Chava? To know that just as that marriage was for sure destined from on high, and for sure there was no possibility of maybe I made a mistake, maybe someone else is mine, we should also have bitachon in Hashem that even if things don't look so 100% by you, it's before when you're dating, I don't know, any problems? No. You have an attraction? Yeah. But I don't know, maybe there's someone better out there. Stop with that maybe. There's a time where you have to put it in Hashem's hands. He's the ultimate shadchan. Because you're going to keep on saying, and there's a story, I'll tell you a little story. The story with a bacher who was going out with a girl, about to get engaged. Everything was going well. No problems from her side, from his side. Mitamal, out of the blue, comes a shadchan and says, I have a shidduch for you. I'm already busy. Are you engaged? No, but we're getting close. You're not engaged? I have a girl. I know the girl you're going to. She asked what girl. I know her. She's good. Doesn't compare to this girl. You don't know what you're missing. I'm telling you. Terrible shotgun, by the way. That shotgun I've never used. I would never use ever again. And she's disqualified. Guess what the guy did? He fell for it. He went after her. 2 weeks later, he was about to get engaged to her. A relative of his said, "Wait a second, I have someone even better." And went after the third one, and it all broke off. And he lost his. The first one was the shidduch. Stop trying to overdo it. Put your trust in the one above. Very important. It also means that you can't sit back and wait like Adam Rishon and Chava, or like Yitzchak and Rivka. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you have to really work hard. We don't always know why and who has to, who doesn't have to. This is on high. Just because it's destined, it doesn't mean it just will fall into your hands. And it's also possible to lose, as we'll see in the Gemmara. It's also possible to lose the one that you were supposed to marry. Okay, so we have a problem over here. How can we, is it dependent on the religious observance? Does Hashem match two people together only if they are on the equal level, both in personality and mental decency between man to man and also man to God? Is it that way, or is it destined before the baby is even born? And obviously Hashem is not going to decide what level of religiosity you have, because that would take away your free choice. If Hashem decrees this boy will be, on this level of observance, then God will be taking away the free choice. Okay, so that obviously can't be, so we have a problem here. And then the Gemmara will continue on. If you remember, the Gemmara continued on and said, we have before answering the question, the Gemmara continue with another part of the question. Amar Rabba, this is on the second page. I'll go over it again. Amar Rabba bar Bachana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. And you know what? The Kasha, he said, this is referring back to Reish Lakish, who said it depends not on God's decree. He will only match people if they fit with each other. And then he added, and it's very hard to find a perfect fit. The Kasha lezavgon kekriyas yamsu. It is as difficult for the omnipresent, meaning for Hashem Kavayachol, to match up a man and a woman for marriage as it was to accomplish the splitting of the Red Sea. We mentioned last time, for God it was hard to split the Red Sea. What does that mean? What's hard for Hashem? Nothing's hard for Hashem. So we gave a whole bunch of answers. In the footnote here, you'll see an interesting answer from the Maharal, which we didn't quote last time we learned. So we'll get there in a minute. Okay, so what does it say here? It's very difficult because we have to match and they have to be exactly alike, and that's not easy to find someone like this. If God is decreeing from the very start, get-go, that this boy meets this girl, obviously it's not hard. It's decreed. Whether they fit, whether they're compatible, very compatible or not. Sometimes, by the way, your basharta is not so compatible. And it doesn't go so smoothly. It doesn't mean, well, it's so smooth, I know I got the right shidduch. And it's not so smooth, maybe I got the wrong one. It doesn't work out that way. Lav dafka. We have stories besides other than Chava, we also have with Shimshon Agibar, Delilah. Didn't go so well. That was destined from on high. That marriage in Tanakh. And things did not go so smooth at all. Sometimes even a predestined marriage is not as smooth shidduch. You have to make it smooth. You have to adjust and adjust and adjust and adjust, and it finally works. Yes, Chava.
Is it possible that you were talking earlier about how you might not always merit to have your basheret? So Shalom. But your basheret also has free will. So what if Shalom, someone's basheret is off the derech, and obviously you're not gonna marry an off the derech person. So it's you're gonna marry someone else who's it's also a good match and merits to marry you also, but you weren't originally each other's shidduch, in heaven, being called out by the bas kol, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, if it's clear that because the Rebbe, by the way, there was the only time the Rebbe answered not to go with the shidduch is if they were completely incompatible in terms of their religious observance. If one of them was not from and keep Shabbos, especially if it's the guy who didn't keep Shabbos. Well, I'll make him keep Shabbos. I'll have no, it doesn't work that way. Especially her over him, to make him a guy who's not interested in keeping Shabbos or kashrus, and he'll just do it to make her feel happy. he or she will always have, the other non-religious partner will always say to the religious partner, I did something so much for you. I gave, I don't really believe in all this stuff, but I did it for you. But what about you doing for me? So it's probably not that kind of mismatch is probably not the Basharta.
But like, could that happen? I'm saying like, we have free will, right?
Yeah.
So like,
It probably, but that Hashem does not want a marriage that's not supposed to, al pi halacha, take place. There's a problem in halacha. It's a problem in halacha because he's going to cause her. So that's probably where you draw the lines. There you could say, although we never know who's our basher, you never could know, we can't figure things out. But if it will be a breach in halacha if they were to marry, then it doesn't make any sense to say that this was decreed from on high that they should have this kind of marriage.
Right, but I guess like it just as about tshuva, this part like really perplexes me because it's like we changed our life, like we changed our life so much, and it's like I could like in another lifetime, or like in a different like free will place, like I could have married some Jew, a Jewish man that's like not like about tshuva, like not like but like that would have been fine.
But you didn't. But
I didn't.
Fine.
Like
so
that
means that you were not.
That's free will, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like me, whoever I will marry or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say that is whatever the highest like bashert. But then it's like if I didn't do that, then who would he be marrying? Like if I like.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that there's like 7 possible souls. Something.
I don't know where you got that from. I don't know where. I haven't seen any source like that.
I also heard that.
I heard that. Like I don't know.
You have to show me a source that I've never heard of. I mean, I've heard, but I don't know. I have never heard how authentic it is. I don't know how to answer your question. It's a good one. I'm not sure how to answer it. Well, let's see the Gemmara inside first. Maybe through learning we can dig a little deeper. Okay, so we have a question. Is it Basheret? Is it not based on the behavior of the two, or is it? So the Gemmara answers it depends. It depends. This is the end of page 2 of the English page. The right side, on the right top side, you'll see Gemmara answers. This is not difficult. Ha-bazug rishon, ha-bazug sheni. This notion that matches are determined at conception was stated concerning a first union, and which is not dependent on their level of, how observant they are, how holy they are. The second one, on the other hand, the second time they're married, simple plot means the second time they're in second marriage, and this notion that one's mate is contingent on his conduct was stated concerning a second union. And that's why it's so difficult. So that's the Gemara's answer. We satisfied that. Now, what do we mean by second union? So the simple means when you get married a second time. If both of them are witnessing their second marriage, not one, if both of them are witnessing second marriage, then it will have to be 2 people that are very compatible as far as their observance of mitzvahs are concerned. And that's not easy to find 2 people that are exactly alike. But not everyone learns that the Gemmara really means a second marriage. We mentioned that this is not a very popular, what I'm going to mention right now is, I've only seen it once, and that is a second marriage means when they get married years later, they're no longer childbearing. So that's a second marriage, even though they were both married for the first time. All the other commentaries disagree with that and say, no, a second marriage is not literally a second marriage, but rather a second marriage could mean, look in the bottom of the page on the commentaries, on the footnotes on the bottom. Let's see the last paragraph. The commentators debate the meaning of first union and second union. Some maintain that a second union is only where both the man and the woman were previously married. If it is the first marriage for either spouse, it is classified as first union, which was predetermined at the time of conception. Others assert that a first union is one which takes place when the couple is still young and they are not yet subject to reward and punishment. So it seems like that the second marriage is not when they're old, but as long as they're not very young, and it's a view that almost nobody accepts. Their marriage is ordained by heavenly decree. The marriage of older people is considered a second union and is determined by the parties' conduct. And the question is, what do you mean by old? And many explain old means the way I just said before, when they're not childbearing anymore. Yet others explain, this is what I wanted to bring out, that at the time of conception, an ideal mate is designated for each male. That is the first choice union. When he attains marriageable age, heaven judges him if he is deserving to have the mate that was decreed. If yes, he will be given his ideal mate. If not, she will be given to someone more deserving, and she will be the other man's second union, i.e., in accordance with his conduct. So it's very, according to this meaning, it doesn't mean a second marriage. The person was supposed to marry somebody and he didn't deserve it, then that marriage, even though it's his first marriage, can be called a second marriage. And the one she marries is like her first marriage. So it doesn't depend on first and second marriage. There's also another explanation, another interesting explanation given by the Yaakov Emden, that first marriage and second marriage can be totally impossible to figure out. When we say basheret, it could very well be that a person was married once, had a very tough time, and went through a divorce. And that was his second marriage. That was not meant to be the basheret. Why were they married? It's sort of like a punishment. Because this person did whatever he did, he was destined to suffer a little bit before he can get his real shidduch. So the second marriage can sometimes be the first marriage, and the first one is the second marriage, even though chronologically it was the opposite. That's what and we never know. You can never know. You can never know if it was a punishment and the real first marriage is the second, or no, it was your basheret and you'd have to work on it, and you didn't work on it enough.
Wow.
So it's very, very difficult to be able to determine what's first and what's second. Not as simple, it's not black and white. Yes.
So like with what you're saying,
Yeah.
like it's possible to not marry under sharets.
Yes.
I thought that once you're into the football, like absolutely, you marry.
Again, it's possible, but it's not always. It's
What about intermarriage? Is that like, that's not?
the marriage is all no, obviously not.
But
It's not a marriage.
right, but like.
Intermarriage is not a marriage.
Like I'm here as a result of an intermarriage, you know what I mean? Like, so
Right.
it's like clearly. And you know, like I love my father, you know, I believe like there's something Jewish about him, but like I don't know, he hasn't gone through conversion, he's not doing that. It's like
Yeah, okay, but
whatever.
right.
If he feels called for that, whatever. But like as of now, as of always,
Right.
it's like not a real marriage. It's not like a.
No, it's not what the Gemmara is talking about. It is destined.
Like
It is destined. Right. It was destined
to
from.
not marry your basheret. Like.
I can't get into God's all his calculations, but the fact if this women who did not know anything about Judaism, didn't even know that it's wrong to marry and someone who's not Jewish, can't blame her. Then it was God's doing, orchestrating for whatever reason he has to put these two together. So it's not a marriage, it doesn't count as a legal marriage, Jew and non-Jew, but it does mean that Hashem orchestrated this, because who can you blame over here?
Right.
What does she know about Yiddishkeit?
Right.
What does he know about not marrying a Jewess? The fact they got married, like everything in this world, is by divine providence. But we're not discussing that kind of divine providence. We're discussing something that's decreed at the moment of conception.
That's still not bashert. Like
No,
yeah.
no.
Okay.
It's bashert in a way.
In a way.
Divine providence is bashert, but it's not your bashert,
In like
obviously.
a sad way, like the other half of the soul is somewhere else, and someone else, and someone else. Like,
It's hard to answer this question. It's a very difficult subject, by the way, Shidduchim. It's
yeah.
I want to get to the second part of the Gemmara, which we didn't do last time we learned, about half a year ago. Take a look at the next page. Oh, by the way, there's a long. I think you don't have it in your copies, but I have one page I didn't make a copy of, where he brings the Rambam. The Rambam says if a person decides not to get married, does that mean it's not going to work? You're going to get married? Decreed. No, you can. It's a mitzvah to get married. So a mitzvah is your free choice. God can decree, and you can overrule his decree by saying, I don't want to get married. Doesn't mean that you're going to have to get married. It's coming anyways. I might as well just sit back and enjoy life. It was decreed. Whoever it is coming. No, it's not going to work that way. It's very important to be active. Some people have to be more active, some less active, but everyone has to do something. Doesn't usually fall into your hands like Yitzchak and Rivka or Chava, although we hope that that's an ideal case. And the fact that you have love at first sight, by the way, doesn't mean that you're bashar. It could even mean it's a test to try to pull you away from the real one. You have to work on yourself. It doesn't mean that. In the Goyish world, in the secular world, it means, what does it mean? Of course, we always look for, that's the ultimate. And in the Goyish world, huh?
But how do you know you've met your basheret?
You know how you know? When there's no red light, when you can't find any, you have an attraction. Might not be like, you see in the movies, but you have an attraction, you feel something, you find no faults, there's a compatibility. Why not? It's yes until proven no.
But then you need both.
Then you rely on God. Then there's a place where you have to say, okay, Hashem, it's your shidduch. You're the shadchan. You're the ultimate shadchan. You know what it says? I tell Mr. Hassan, it's not gonna, you're not gonna like what I'm gonna say here. It sounds male chauvinistic.
Cover your ears. Let's record it.
Okay, Rabbi Gusky, I hope you won't fire me for this.
Oh.
Matzah isha, matzah toiv, moitza isha mami mavis. A person, it's the male side, his perspective. You can find a woman and you find life. You have your olam haba. And you can find a woman and it's worse than death.
Oh, yeah.
So I heard once a thought like this. If you believe that you made the shidduch, it's up to you and you decide, it's fully in your hands, depending on your logic of what's the right shidduch for me, you're always going to have problems in your marriage. You're never going to find a perfect marriage. It's going to always be, and then it's going to get domino effect.
Because we're so limited. Like if we are using our own calculations, our
Right.
own logic, like that's so limited.
You're going to complain with everything. But if you believe there's a third party that brings us together, just like a third party is needed for procreation. Without Hashem, men and women procreate, they would not, children is a miracle. You need a third party. So too, finding a shidduch, you need the one above. If you believe in that, your marriage will be blissful. It may not start out the way, but it will eventually be perfect marriage. Sometimes we need adjustments. I told you once before, the Rebbe gave different answers for whenever you wrote in. The Rebbe almost every time said yes, but it either was, remember the four languages, the four types of answers that Rebbe gave? The ultimate answer, everyone loved this one. Very
say something. You said
no, the Rebbe wrote back. You wrote into the Rebbe, I met this girl. Her name is Sarah Bas, whatever, and my name is Yosef Yitzchak Ben, whatever. And we've met, and we want the Rebbe's approval to get married. A couple hours later, you get an answer. The secretary calls you. The Rebbe approved, and she gets the call from the same, secretary, Rabbi Groner, Rabbi Klein. The Rebbe said, okay, both of them have to get answers, and it's good. You're a chassid, you're a kala, officially. Now we go to the oil, but then you got the Rebbe's clear approval in writing. What did the Rebbe write? So if you got the words, nachon hashidduch, the shidduch is perfect. That means that you hit the target. The Rebbe will say that. I mean, and it probably means that the shidduch is going to go smoothly. Most times the Rebbe didn't write that. The Rebbe wrote, Betach hichlitu. For sure, they have both decided to live there, that their home should be founded upon the basics, the basis and the foundations of Torah and mitzvahs. Therefore, I give my bracha. I will mention their names at the graveside of my father-in-law, Mazel Tov. That would be the standard answer almost everyone would get. If you weren't that lucky, you would get an answer, Betach yachlitu. For sure, they will make this resolution. That sounds like the Rebbe doesn't believe that you're really there yet. And then the worst one is, Be'im hichlitu. If they were to decide. The Rebbe's not even sure you're going to decide. If you will decide, then I say yes. It's contingent upon you, depends on you. Very, very, very seldom did the Rebbe say that. But most cases, the Rebbe said, for sure they have. This is a Bacher from Ba'at Yeshiva, this is a Beis Rivka, whatever, or, Mechol Liyadus, there's no question. We got two wonderful people. For sure, I give my green light. You know the story, I told you the story with the Satmar boy?
you told me a lot of stories.
Maybe.
The Satmar boy,
And the mother?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wait,
Yeah. I didn't know they did this.
Hard boys have
The
mothers?
Satmar boy decided to marry a Baal Tshuva, a girl. Let's say she was Mechon Le'adus. A Baal Tshuva girl, that's a double whammy. Satmar and Lubavitch, those days it wasn't they didn't get along. Satmar with a Baal Tshuva, Lubavitch or Baal Tshuva, that's a double whammy. Terrible. And the mother of this bacher was really so angry at her son for allowing him to get married to a non-Satmar girl, especially she's a Baal Tshuva. Terrible, terrible crime. So she met her son in the base, met her in 770. She spoke and she reprimanded him in public, slapped him in the face in front of everyone. He said, yeah, a mother is a mother. You gotta respect your mother. He said, Mommy, tell the Rebbe he's the one that okayed the shidduch. Really? I will. She went into the Rebbe's Yechidus room. She complained. The Rebbe was sitting patiently to finish her whole diatribe. And after she finished complaining, the Rebbe said, believe me, got very serious. Believe me, whenever I say okay on a shidduch, I've checked in all the chambers of heaven, from all the way up, all the way down. If I see there's any kind of problem with the two souls, I don't say okay. She hears that, her eyes were like, the Rebbe actually see what's going on in the heavens, and I'm complaining. She apologized to the Rebbe and apologized to her son. So, again, she looking very complicated. Let's see the next page. The next English page. So there's another page here from a different Masechta called Moed Katan, which talks about Chol Moed. And here we have an interesting Gemmara. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, Mutar la'areis isha b'chol shel moed. It is permitted to betroth a woman on Chol Moed. Why would I think it's not? Because you're not allowed to get married on Chol Moed. Why? There's a whole bunch of reasons. You can't mix two simchas. Any simcha. Some say, no, it's only the marriage of your wife because we're going to put away the simcha of the yontif because you're getting married, and that will drown out the simcha of the yontif. Because what a greater simcha is there than a marriage simcha? And we're afraid that you're not going to focus on the yontif at all. Or there are other reasons for it. We're afraid that because it's such a good time to get married, kill two birds with one shot, people will delay their marriage until Chol Moed, and you're going to be preventing a lot of marriages from starting, which prevents, children from being born. So for that reason, you can't do it on Chol Moed. But the first reason is the most popular reason, the more accepted reason, that we don't mix two simchas together. Okay. So I would have thought that you can also go through betrothal. Now, this doesn't mean becoming a kala or chassan. This goes further. In those days, the two stages of marriage, the ring ceremony, and when they would actually live together, was not all at once, the same night. It would be like a year apart. So she's married. She's if you chas v'shalom someone is with her, it's adultery. She's a married woman, but she cannot be with her husband yet. It would be a year apart for her to prepare for all the wedding needs. That's how it was in those days. Today, it's not that way. So betrothal actually means the first stage of marriage. Today, we use betrothal as an engagement, as when you become a chassan and a kala. So you're allowed to. If a marriage is to take place, stage one, where he gives her the ring, and he says, Hariyat Mekudeshesli, that is okay to do during Chol Moed. It's the second stage where they have the chuppah and the yichud room, and then of course the whole simcha, that should be eliminated and done only after Yom Tov.
Wait, can I stop you there for a second?
Yes.
So it used to be separate, like you're saying, these two stages, and Chabad doesn't do.
Not Chabad, the whole world now. Everyone, back in the time of the Gemmara.
The secular world, they give you engagement rings and stuff like that, and we don't do that.
No.
Because
you're not getting married.
It's now it's almost like you're required.
Right,
this.
Now we're very careful not to do that for obvious reasons, because you don't want to have a married woman. Today, society is so corrupt, it's so dangerous that if you marry a woman without her husband being able to be with her, it's very dangerous. In those days, it was understood when a woman was married, no one would touch her. So that would safeguard her by hurrying up and marrying her, and then, she'd have time to prepare for the wedding, for the actual second stage of the wedding, where they would come home together. That would be delayed. Exactly when in history this has stopped, I'm not exactly sure, but for sure, hundreds of years it's done right away, one after the other, same night. Okay, so you're allowed to go through stage one, b'chol shel moed. For sure, you're allowed to become a chassan kala chol moed. Why? Shemo yikadmenu acher, lest another man precede him in betrothing her. We're afraid if you don't hurry up and marry this woman, you might lose the shidduch. Someone is going to beat you to it, and marry her. Now the Gemara is going to soon ask the obvious question. The question we're going to ask here is, Shmuel himself is the one who says that a marriage is predestined from on high. So why would you worry? Why would you have to rush and marry her and at Chol Moed? Wait till after Yom Tov. No, you might lose the shidduch. Why should I be afraid? The Gemara will soon ask that question. Anyways, before we get to that, actually, you know what? Let's jump ahead. Actually, okay. Okay, let's go to the next page. Let's skip this whole. There's a long arichos here. Maybe get back to it another day. Let's go back to the next page. On the bottom, not the bottom, on the right side of the page, you'll see where it says Shmuel stated. Okay, this is the third English page. There's two Hebrew pages and the third English page. Well, there's no number of page here, so that's why it's difficult. Shmuel stated that one may betroth a woman on Chol Hamoed because otherwise another man might take her. The Gemmara knows that this reason is contradicted by another Shmuel teaching. How could Shmuel say that you're allowed to marry on Chol Hamoed because of the worry that you might lose the shidduch? Umi Amar Shmuel Shemei Kadmenu Acher. Did Shmuel really say that we're worried lest another man precede him and steal your wife from you? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, wasn't it Rabbi Yehuda who said in the name of Shmuel, V'chol yom v'yom, not 40 days, every single day, Baskol yoitzais v'omeres bas ploni leploni. There's a heavenly voice emanating and declaring on a daily basis, Bas Ploni, the daughter of so-and-so, is destined for so-and-so. Sade Ploni leploni, such and such a field is destined for so-and-so. Parnos is also predestined. Since one mate is predetermined, the question is, how can one man lose his prospective bride? Wait till after Yom Tov. I understand you can lose maybe your shidduch if you sit back and do nothing. But the fact that it's Yom Tov, you're not getting married, you're rushing because you're afraid. Why are you afraid? We have a rule. Hashem decrees. And Shmuel said that rule. The same Shmuel who says, don't get married. You can get married Chol Hamoed because you got to be careful, otherwise you might lose the shidduch. It's the same Shmuel who says that it's predestined. So why should you worry? Why would you have a fear that you might lose the shidduch? That's the question. And the Gemmara answer is a very interesting answer. Turn the page. The answer is Elo Shema Yikadmenu Acher Barachamim. The Gemmara resolves the contradiction on top of the page, on the left-hand side, the following page. Elo Shema Yikadmenu Acher Barachamim. Rather, Shmuel means lest another man precede him through prayer. Prayer can do something. You can lose your basharta with someone else praying, I want this girl.
Wow.
Now you're going to soon see it's not so simple. You got to learn the whole Gemmara here.
Wait, is there?
So Shmuel is not worried about losing a shidduch just like that. He's worried about someone who has an obsession for this young lady, and he'll daven so hard, and Hashem might hear his tefillos, and we don't want that. That's what it sounds like the Gemara is saying at this point. Yes.
Is this why it is related that I learned that you can't, like, you're not allowed to pray that you want to marry like this name. Like, you're not allowed to pray to marry this person. Because like Hashem can say, okay, you want to marry this person, okay, but maybe you were not, maybe you deserve something better,
Right.
so that you shouldn't like pray for someone in particular.
Yeah. We'll soon see. It's not right. You're 100% right. As we'll soon see in the next Gemmara, very good. And it's a wrong thing to do that.
Right.
But just because it's wrong, you can't be so sure that other person won't do what's wrong. And if he does, and he begs, he might be listened to. It also might be coupled together with the fact that you're not so worthy of this girl.
Uh-oh.
And that guy is much more worthy than you are. And he's praying very hard with his whole heart. Together with all that, you might lose your shidduch.
But this gives me the same question as Ainara. Like, why does a person have the power to change what Hashem can do? Like Ainara, like if you deserve something, just because one person like saw you in a bad eye, Hashem will take this away from you. Like, it's so crazy. Like,
It's because of two things I said. It's not only that that person is davening and you lose. It has to do with the fact that you're not so worthy as much as that person is. And then Hashem, that decree can be nullified. It's a couple of two things. Yes. But even so, it's wrong to daven for that purpose. It's wrong to try to take away someone else's shidduch, even though you feel like you fit much better. Shouldn't do that. But we're afraid you might. But the Gemmara there's another piece of Gemmara here I wanted to go through. We ran out of time. Very interesting piece over here. But I don't want to keep you. I have, obviously Stroll, but I don't like done to me. I wouldn't do it to you, so I'm not going to force you to stay here another few minutes. But keep the copy. Or if you plan to be here next Friday, keep the copy. Don't lose it. And if you don't plan to be here, give me back the copy, and we'll continue this Gemmara next week. Okay, Emir Hashem.
I'm gonna be here next week, maybe I'll join on Zoom.
That's it.
I'm going to Aruba with my parents.
Aruba? Really?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do without you?
I don't know, what am I gonna do in that place?
Rabbi